Hello, boys and girls. So I'm playing around with, I can actually make this a little bit bigger. So hopefully you can see that. This geometry module is a little bit more tricky to teach via the computer than some of the other lessons. And we're really focusing on math these last 2 weeks because we want to get you through these last 4 modules to at least give you just a glimpse of these topics. So today is Thursday, May 7th, and we are going to do Module 15, Lesson 3, and then I'm going to do a second video for Module 15, Lesson 4. They will both be for today's math. You know that our focus is math right now. We gave you very little writing this time around, and no science or social studies, so that you would have more time to do the math and still read every day. So be patient with us. I'm doing 2 videos today so that you can do one video, do one section in your book, and then go play, get away from it for a little bit, and then come back and do the second lesson possibly later. I don't think the material is really hard, but you do need to watch the videos to make sure that you understand what they're looking for. So I am looking in my math book at page 443. That's where I want you to start out today. And the I can statement is the same as what you have in your book. I'm going to move my screen up a little bit here. Just learned this was a new feature. I can get it to work. Oh, there we go. All right. Move it up to the top here. I can put two-dimensional shapes together to make a named shape. So I'm going to show you exactly what that means. That means I can take a two-dimensional, which means a flat shape, like these triangles, whoops, and I can put them together to make a new shape. Now I have a rhombus. And so that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about putting two-dimensional shapes together to make a new shape. So here's your first question that you have on your Spark Your Learning page. Use two-dimensional shapes to make a picture. So this is kind of a fun page. You get to take the shapes that I gave you on that green paper, cut them out, arrange them, and make any type of picture that you would like. And you guys are used to doing this with pattern blocks in our classroom. So you can really explore and make whatever you want. Draw shapes or copy patterns to make a picture. So you could put them together to make a clown hat and a clown face. You could make an airplane. You could make a rocket. Whatever you would like to make out of your shapes, just trace around them in your book. And then if you want to, you can even color them. So that was page 443. Now we're going to move on. What did you make? What other shapes could you have used to make the picture? And you can share with a classmate, which would have to be your brother, sister, or your parents. So tell them about what you created with your shapes. Use pattern blocks or plane shapes, and plane shapes means flat or two-dimensional shapes to make named shapes. So now they're going to be telling us exactly what they want us to make with those shapes. Marta combines shapes to make a trapezoid. Draw a way to make shapes and make a trapezoid. All right, so I'm going to show you this on the screen also. Here's the trapezoid, okay? There are a couple of different ways you could make this trapezoid, but probably the most common way would be to cover it, and you can do this with yours at home. Cover it with the little squares, and it will cover perfectly with 3 squares. So triangles. I'm making a trapezoid with triangles. Another possible way to do it would be to put a rhombus with a triangle to make a trapezoid. The important part is that when I look at this, you are going to have a trapezoid. So it has to have the bottom and top parallel to each other and then joined together like this. So you're making a shape better than mine that looks like your red shape. And that's why I gave you shapes to trace. So you can do that on your own. And part B says Ethan combines shapes to make a hexagon. Oops, I got ahead of myself. Here's what they drew. Theirs is a little bit stretched out, but they used triangles to make a trapezoid. Here's part B. Here's Ethan. So Ethan is using shapes to make a hexagon. So what shapes do you think Ethan could use in order to make this hexagon? Well, there are lots of different ways he could do it, but taking two of the red trapezoids and putting them together, that would certainly make a hexagon, right? You could use 3 of the rhombuses. I don't have enough hands to hold these up, but picture there's another rhombus in there. Or you could use the triangles. So there are lots of different ways to make for Ethan to make the hexagon. I would recommend, boys and girls, that you trace the shapes that I gave you. Cut those out and trace those. These shapes are a little bit tricky to draw on your own, so tracing them is probably your best option. So that would be what Ethan would do. At the bottom, it says, what other shapes can you use to make a hexagon? So in your drawing, if you used 2 trapezoids, you could write in the words at the bottom of the page, I could use 6 triangles, I could use 3 rhombuses, write another way that you could do that. And that's what they're telling you here. There are other ways that you could do that. Here's another way. You could use the 6 triangles. So that's still from page 444. Okay, now we're moving on to page 445. And we're using squares to combine to make a larger square. All right, so in my screen, I can use squares. And I'm going to make them blue, so you can see them a little bit better than the black. Whoops, I need to touch it. There we go. Still learning how to use these tools. Now, I'm not going to combine mine with their gold one because it's a little bit bigger. So I'm going to use these blue squares, and I'm going to pretend that orange one's not there. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, and if they're all touching, I'm leaving a tiny bit of a space so you can see where they would go together. 4, and if I place my 4 squares together, it creates one large square. So try that with some of your squares. Or if you need to, you can make more squares. You can draw more squares. If you take the one square that you have and you trace it 4 times over, you can make a larger square with 4 squares. And it will look just like that. Now you're going to combine 6 squares to make a rectangle. So now I'm still on page 445. I'm on number 2, and I'm going to use 6 squares. So this time I do think I'm going to use the black ones. I think you can see them pretty well. So we'll just use 6 of those black squares. All right. So there are 2 together. I'm going to start out kind of like our square, aren't we? Again, I'm leaving a little space so you can see where they end. And then I'm going to keep going so that I have a rectangle. And you can see how if I put those 6 squares together, I now have a rectangle. And here's what theirs looks like. See if they agree with me. There it is. I can put 2-dimensional shapes together to make new shapes. So that's what we've been working on. I do want to, so this actually goes with lesson 15.4. So I want you to take a look with me at the bottom of page 445. Caleb combines 3 squares in a row, circle to name the new shape. So if he puts 3 squares in a row like this, I'm talking about number 1 at the bottom of page 445. If he puts 3 squares in a row, has he made a rectangle or has he made a square? You tell me. Which one should you circle? Then at the bottom of the page, show how to combine 2 triangles to make a rectangle. This one is a little bit tricky because you don't have triangles that look like that. You could use these that you have on the back of the 15.4 page. You could use those 2 triangles. Those 2 triangles can help you see how 2 triangles could make a rectangle. So that would look something like, let me use this pen to show you. If you're trying to make a rectangle, here's my rectangle. And if I want to use 2 triangles to make it, it's going to look like this. Okay, so that's the bottom of 445. The rest of moving on to 446, which is independent, use plain shapes or pattern blocks, draw to show how to make a new shape. Sabari combined shapes to make this triangle, combine different shapes to make a triangle. So you're going to use any of your shapes. It could be something as simple as trying to use some of your blue rhombuses to make a triangle. It could be trying to use your trapezoid to help you make a triangle. So explore which shapes you can put together in order to make a triangle at the top of page 446. And then combine shapes to try to make a rectangle. Any shapes. It doesn't have to be the ones I gave you on your green paper. Try to make your lines as straight as you can. Using a ruler or some type of a straight edge might help you to make that as neat as possible, but I'm not looking for super perfect straight lines. Just do the best that you can. And then Trey combines 6 triangles to make a shape that has 6 sides. I think you can figure that one out. If you combine 6 of these little triangles and you trace them over and over again, you've got this pattern. What will happen if you put 6 of them together? See what you can make. All right, we're going to end it there for our first lesson for today, and I will be right back with you for our second lesson in just a moment.